Finger Family.
Little Red Riding Hood. Once there was a village at the edge of a forest. In this village there lived a small girl who was loved by everyone. Her grandma, who lived in another village, loved her dearly. On her birthday, the grandma bought her a red velvet cloak with a hood. Wearing the cloak, the girl walked down the street proudly. Everyone praised her new Red Riding Hood, so she got the name Little Red Riding Hood. Now, the girl's grandmother suddenly fell ill, so her mother asked her to go to the old lady. Giving her a basket of food, she said, "Be careful, neither stray off the path nor talk to any stranger." So waving to her mother, the girl left for her grandma's house. As soon as Little Red Riding Hood entered the forest, she passed by a woodcutter who was cutting wood with his axe. Hardly had she gone a little further when a cruel wolf chanced to see her. Finding her alone, he made up his mind to feast on her tender flesh. So the greedy wolf decided to follow Little Red Riding Hood till she reached the heart of the forest. The woodcutter looked at the wolf and saw through his evil design. Soon the cruel wolf overtook Little Red Riding Hood. In order to open talk with her, the wolf put on an innocent face and asked her, "Where are you going, O little girl?" "To my grandmother's house. She is not keeping well," replied Red Riding Hood with a smile. "Is it a long way off?" asked the cunning wolf. "No, it isn't very far," replied the innocent girl. "Which way is it?" asked the wolf. The girl pointed to the way as she walked along. The cunning wolf changed his mind and decided to eat up the old grandma before the girl could reach there. So he said, "Won't it be nice for you to take a bouquet of wildflowers for your grandma?" "A grand idea," remarked Little Red Riding Hood. Saying so, she went off the path to gather flowers for the bouquet. Seeing her busy collecting flowers, the wolf ran to the grandma's house ahead of her. The crafty wolf reached the grandma's house before long. He looked at the house and said to himself, "How beautiful indeed the old woman's house is." Waiting for a few minutes, the wolf looked around so that nobody might be there to help the old lady when he would fall upon her. Making sure that nobody was anywhere around, the wolf tiptoed to the door of the grandma's house with a view to knocking at the door. He cleared his throat so that he might speak in the girl's voice. Believing that Little Red Riding Hood was still far behind, the wolf knocked at the door gently. "Who is there?" called out the grandma. "It is I, your granddaughter," replied the wolf in the voice of Little Red Riding Hood. The old lady got out of her bed and opened the door, but she was almost half dead out of fear to see the fearful wolf. The wolf growled at her, and losing no time, he fell upon the old sick lady and swallowed her up. Seeing a dress of the old lady hanging from a peg, he put it on to disguise himself as the grandma. Then, leaving the door open, he lay down in the bed and covered himself up to the neck. Not only this, he put on the old lady's cap too. Before long, Little Red Riding Hood reached there. Seeing the door open, she went inside silently lest the grandma should wake up. She set the table with eatables and also arranged the bouquet in the vase. The wolf kept watching her. Little Red Riding Hood tiptoed to the grandma's bed to give her a surprise, but she felt shocked to see her grandma. Looking at her big eyes, she exclaimed in wonder, "What big eyes you have, Grandma!" "To see your lovely face better." "What big ears you have, Grandma!" asked the girl. "To see your lovely face better," the wolf replied. "What big ears you have, Grandma!" asked the girl. "To hear you better, my dear," replied the wolf. "What big hands you have, Grandma?" asked Little Red Riding Hood. "To hold you fast," replied the wolf openly. "What big teeth you have, oh grandma!" asked the little girl fearfully. "To eat you tastefully, my dear," growled the cruel wolf. In no time the wolf jumped out of the bed, pounced upon the little girl, and gobbled her up. Little Red Riding Hood cried as she disappeared into the wolf's belly. Feeling full and heavy, the wolf got into the bed again to have a nap. Luckily, a hunter passing by the house had heard the cries of Little Red Riding Hood, so he, along with his dog, quietly came in and saw the sleeping wolf. "I have caught the rascal at last," shouted the hunter as he suspected that something was wrong. Taking a pair of scissors, the hunter cut open the wolf's belly, and out came Little Red Riding Hood, afraid and amazed. Her velvet cloak had got badly wrinkled. "Get my grandmother also out, uncle," said the girl to the hunter, who cut the wolf's belly further. Out jumped the old grandma, who was still feeling unwell. She complained that it was quite dark inside the wolf's belly. As for the wolf, he remained lost in sound sleep all the while. Little Red Riding Hood embraced her grandma lovingly. Then she gathered a heap of stones. The hunter filled the wolf's belly with them, and the grandma lost no time to sew the belly back with her needle. So the wolf kept sleeping soundly as before. Now all of them hid behind a bush, waiting for the wolf to wake up. Before long, the wolf woke up and said to himself, "Oh, I've slept pretty long." As he tried to move, he found his belly to be too heavy. Knowing little about the stones, he held it with his paws and came out. Feeling thirsty, he got to a well and put a bucket inside it. But losing his balance, he fell into the well and was killed. Everybody was very happy to see the wicked wolf dead. The grandma soon got well, and all of them enjoyed the eatables lying on the table. Everybody wanted to go back home now. The hunter left the place. As for Little Red Riding Hood, she waved goodbye to her grandma. Before leaving, she promised her grandma that she would not stray off the path again.
If you like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button below.